What's going on, second geners? In this video we're going to start restoring our sport mirrors for our Camaro project, making them look new again. Guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Russell. This is Double R Restorations, and this channel is all about second gen Camaros, mainly focusing on a 72 Camaro that I call Project Overkill. We also have an 81 Camaro that I call Project Fast Tires. So guys, in the last couple of videos, we've talked a lot about sport mirrors. We've looked at some differences between the early years and the later years. We've also looked at the location on the right hand side where the passenger side mirror would be mounted at. And on this video, we're actually going to start restoring the original mirrors that I have. This will be a two-part series. So guys, that's enough ratchet jawing. Let's get to work. Okay guys, I wanted to show you this here. This is the driver's side mirror, the one with the remote. So what I did to actually clean this up is I took some simple green and just filled that container up, and I just let these parts sit in it for a couple days, and then I just came back with just an old toothbrush and just cleaned all the gunk and grime off of them. As you can see here, they turned out really nice. Right here's the one for Project Overkill, the original one, and it's actually moving really nice. The glass was already gone on this one, so I thought we'd take it apart. I'll blast this up, see what it looks like. It's just 2 Phillips screws down in the hole here. We'll get those off. These things can be a little tricky to get put back together. The base will separate from the mirror, and the internal should just fall out. We're going to clean it up. Here's what we're looking like after we've got it out of the parkerizing solution. Actually looking pretty decent. We'll go around the edges here, and I've got a piece of wet 1200, and I'm just going to work this paint off of here with it. And then once I do that, we'll switch over to a special paste that I have for plastic with a red Scotch-Brite, and we'll get it all prepped to accept some sim paint. You can see that 1200's taking that off. Okay, so the next step in this mirror restoration is just to go ahead and clean the outside of the black plastic, get it prepped for some sim paint. And to do that, I'm going to use this Sim soap with a Scotch-Brite pad. We'll get everything cleaned really good. We'll go over it with some SPI waterborne cleaner, and we'll let it set up, and then we'll take some adhesion promoter and some Sim paint and hopefully make it look new again. Okay guys, I wanted to show you this. This is just the first coat. You can tell by looking at the tape, I mean it's very light. Usually what I'll do on this is the passenger side I just finished, and it took 3 light coats to cover really good. You don't want to put it on there real thick, and we're doing 5 minutes between coats. And then what I'm going to do is just let this stuff sit outside in the sun. It's almost 80 degrees out here today. There's our third spray. Turned out pretty good. You're not going to see most of this because it's going to set back into the mirror housing. But these cars have been painted before. Both sets of mirrors that I had here had a lot of overspray. You guys seen it at the beginning of the video on this particular one. And you know, it's a couple screws and you can pull the whole assembly apart. But I see a lot of people tape them up, and a lot of cars, a lot of nice cars at car shows got overspray around the mirrors. But this should take care of it. And we'll get some replacement glass in here. We'll go ahead and get them assembled. My next step, I'm going to take the housings and I'm going to prep those for some epoxy. So we'll be blasting those up and getting them up in the garage and putting a couple coats of epoxy on. Once this mirror glass housing dried, I wasn't too happy with the sheen on it. It was more of a flat color. And I do happen to have an NOS one here that I picked up pretty cheap because it had a crack in the glass. This one has more of a gloss to it. It's pretty beat up, but it is glossy. So on these, what I opted to do was I came back with this sponge back piece of sandpaper. This is 800 grit, and I just lightly wet sanded it, and then I took some clear coat and cleared it. And I really like the way those turned out now. The thing's still wet, so I don't want to touch it. But I believe that's going to work. Let's talk a little bit about replacement glass. This has probably been one of the most aggravating parts of restoring these mirrors, is getting the right glass in here to do that. One of the main manufacturers that I found for replacement glass was Burco, and the part number on it is 2125. And this replacement glass is basically 5 1/4 inches diagonally and 2 7/8 vertically. The thing about this Burco glass is it has their part number right here on the bottom. It shows a B and a 2125. And you know, it's not really that big of a deal. However, you guys know I love eBay, and I'm always on there looking around. One of my biggest pet peeves on eBay is generic pictures. I like to see exactly what I'm buying. And they just show you just a generic picture of the glass, just the cutout of it. You know, they don't show you any markings or anything. So when I got that in, I was surprised to find that part number written on the glass. So when I bought the next one, it actually just came in a regular, no marking box, and then the glass on it has no markings at all, which I kind of like that better, really. However, now I've got a set that doesn't really match. So, got to looking, they do make a Burco right side glass. It's a 2121. And you can see it has the part number down there. It's actually a different part number for the left versus the right. So what I wound up with was a set of Burcos left and right, and I finally found another driver side that basically had no markings on it. You know, I would contact the seller, I would ask them, is there any markings on this glass? And some of them would say no, some of them would tell me yes. Had one actually say no, and then when I got it, it was just one of the Burcos. And you just never know what you're getting sometimes on eBay. One other option that you have is if you have your original glass. This here's the original glass off of Project Overkill. You can always take this glass here and take it to a glass shop and have them cut you a couple, which is probably the route that I should have taken. Just seeing that all the trouble that I went through with this replacement glass. Like I said, there's our Burco driver side, Burco passenger side, and like I said, these are really marked. Adhesive pads, and I looked at those. They just don't feel like they're that sticky to me. If it was actually sticking to this glove and actually ripping the glove, I'd feel a little bit more better about them, but I don't think I like these. I'm just going back with the RTV like the factory used, and this stuff's actually having a little tough time coming out of the tube. I took an original one, an old one, and actually installed it onto an old housing just to kind of get the feel for how much to put on there. And I did have a little bit ooze out, just a little bit on the sides, and that's okay. That tells me I got enough on there. And here's my first one that I've done is the Burco 2121. And like I said, I just barely had some come out on the side. And I noticed that on the factory ones as well. You'll see a little bit of that. What I found works best is to build the mound up more to the inside and then drop the glass in and kind of move it around. And you don't want a lot coming out on the outside, but I think that's going Replacement mirror glass for these second gens. Number one, always be sure to wear gloves when working with it. It's just going to reduce the amount of cleaning you have to do once you get the glass installed. Number two, always be sure to test fit the actual mirror glass into the housing before you commit to the actual gluing it with the RTV. The one mirror glass that was the driver's side that basically had 0 markings on it, I did have to go in on a couple of the edges and just file it slightly. I actually took a roll-lock with 80 grit and just really slow speed, just kind of ground it down just a little bit, and I kept checking it until I got it to where it would drop in the housing. It was actually just a little too big. It was a slow process. You don't want to heat that glass up, because when you're actually grinding around the edges, if you heat it up, you'll damage the mirror. It'll actually blacken the edge. And I found that out the hard way, but luckily I was able to grind that out without it affecting the mirror. I had enough material there that I needed to remove, so once I got it in there, it was good to go. Also, this Burco glass, it dropped right in. I didn't have any trouble with fitment on it. The only thing that I'm noticing that may be just slightly different is the thickness of the glass. It's just a little bit thicker than the originals. You can tell here on an original NOS piece of glass here, I don't know if you can see the date code, but you can tell here it's pretty much level with the housing, if not just barely protruding above the housing just ever so slightly. That's the same way this glass was that basically had no markings. It fit just like the originals in the housing. Also, speaking of cleaning, when it comes to cleaning this glass, do not use anything but like this type of material here. This is real common for cell phones and everything. You guys have seen this. Use it for camera lenses and everything as well. You pick this whole pack up on eBay for about $7, and I think you can even find some cheaper depending on the quantity that they give you. If you use any type of paper towel, even the NOS glass or this replacement glass, it scratches so easy.